I'm 63 and my legs cramped every night until I ate these 5 magnesium foods and it was gone overnight. I'm Diana Ashton and I spent 28 years as a high school principal watching young people figure out who they were, and now I spend my time helping women in my generation figure out what their bodies need. Because here's what I know after becoming a certified health coach and a yoga teacher. After spending thousands of hours with women just like you who are in their 50s and 60s and beyond, there is something happening in our bodies that nobody really talks about at this age. And it's this silent deficiency that wakes you up screaming in the middle of the night with your calf muscles seized up like a fist, and you can't move and you can't think, and you're just lying there in the dark hoping it stops. And I lived with that for years. And I want to tell you exactly what changed it for me. The most stunning statistic I learned when I was studying nutrition is this. Somewhere between 50 and 80% of Americans are magnesium deficient. And that number gets worse after you turn 60, because your stomach acid naturally decreases as you age, which means your body literally cannot absorb minerals the way it did when you were younger. And on top of that, if you're taking any of the common medications that so many of us are taking, the ones for acid reflux or the water pills for blood pressure, you're actually preventing your body from absorbing magnesium at all. Proton pump inhibitors, which are the medications for acid reflux, they literally shut down the acid production in your stomach. And that acid is what you need to break down magnesium so your body can absorb it. So if you've been taking one of those medications for years, which so many of us have, you've essentially been creating a magnesium deficit that compounds over time. And diuretics, the water pills that women are often prescribed for blood pressure or for water retention, they actively pull magnesium out of your body and into your urine. So you're not just failing to absorb it, you're actively losing what you do have. Most of us don't even know this is happening. We just think we're getting older and our bodies are falling apart, when really we're starving ourselves of one specific nutrient that controls about 300 different chemical reactions in your body. Everything from blood sugar regulation to bone density to your sleep-wake cycle depends on magnesium. And I had no idea. I really didn't. And then one night at 2 a.m, my entire calf muscle went rigid, and I woke up absolutely screaming. And my husband thought something was seriously wrong. He thought I was having a stroke or a heart attack. And that's what sent me down this path. The reason magnesium is so critical for muscle function is actually really elegant when you understand it. Your muscles work on this fundamental principle. Calcium contracts and magnesium relaxes. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. Your muscle gets a signal to tighten up, calcium rushes in, and your muscle contracts. And then magnesium is supposed to come in and push that calcium out so your muscle can relax again. And that's the dance that happens millions of times a day in your body. But when you don't have enough magnesium, the calcium just stays there and your muscle stays clenched. And especially at night, when your magnesium levels naturally dip to their lowest point due to circadian rhythm, that's when the cramping happens. That's when your body is at its most vulnerable, and that's why so many women describe these cramps as happening in the middle of the night without warning. There's no time of day they need to happen. They just happen when your magnesium reserves hit empty, and your poor calf muscle doesn't have what it needs to relax. When my first cramping episode happened, I did what I think a lot of women do. I went and bought bananas and potassium supplements because I had this vague memory from somewhere that leg cramps were about potassium. And I ate bananas for weeks and nothing changed. And then I ate more bananas and still nothing changed. And I remember thinking how strange that was. Like, why would something that common not work for something that common? And then I went to see someone who actually looked at the minerals in my blood and tested me. And it was immediately clear that my potassium was fine. That wasn't the problem at all. The problem was magnesium. And that's when everything shifted. That's when I realized I had been treating the wrong deficiency for weeks while my muscles continued to seize up and terrify me in the night. So let me give you the 5 foods that changed this for me. And these aren't supplements, these aren't powders, these are just foods that I started eating. And I want you to understand the specific amounts because that matters. That's the difference between a food that sounds healthy and a food that's actually going to move the needle on your magnesium levels. The first and the most powerful is pumpkin seeds. And pumpkin seeds contain 156 milligrams of magnesium per single ounce, which makes them the highest food source of magnesium available. And an ounce is not very much. It's about a small handful or roughly a quarter cup. So you're talking about something you can eat in about 30 seconds, and you've already got nearly half of your daily requirement right there. And I started keeping a small container of pumpkin seeds in my purse and on my nightstand because I knew that eating them before bed would give my muscles what they needed while I slept. The second food is dark chocolate, and I mean real dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher. And each ounce of dark chocolate contains about 64 milligrams of magnesium. So if you eat 2 ounces a day, and I know this sounds almost too good to be true because chocolate is something we actually enjoy eating, you're getting about 128 milligrams right there. And when you're trying to get to that 320 milligrams a day that women over 60 actually need, chocolate is such an elegant way to get partway there. And honestly, it made me feel so much better about my diet to know I could have something delicious that was also helping my muscles. The third food is spinach, and not raw spinach. This is important because the bioavailability changes when you cook it. Cooked spinach contains 157 milligrams of magnesium per cup, which is almost exactly as much as pumpkin seeds. But spinach is something you can eat in much larger quantities without it being unusual. You can have a cup or even 2 cups of cooked spinach as part of dinner and nobody thinks twice about it. And the beautiful thing about spinach is that it comes with folate and iron and so many other nutrients that women over 60 need anyway. So you're not just solving one problem, you're actually feeding your body in a much deeper way. The fourth food is almonds, and almonds contain about 80 milligrams of magnesium per ounce. And an ounce is roughly 23 almonds. So if you're having a small handful of almonds as a snack in the afternoon, you're getting substantial magnesium. And if you're having almonds in salads or in oatmeal or just grabbing them when you need something to eat, you can easily get to 160 milligrams by the end of the day without really thinking about it. And the fifth food is avocado. And each avocado contains about 58 milligrams of magnesium, which might seem smaller than the others, but avocados are something that so many of us are eating anyway, and you can have half an avocado on toast or in a salad or mashed up, and you're getting that magnesium plus all the healthy fats that make your skin look better and make your brain work better as you age. If you combine these 5 foods in a reasonable way throughout your day, you can easily get 500 milligrams or more of magnesium from food. And the recommendation for women over 60 is 320 milligrams. So you're essentially getting more than you need. And here's what happened to me. I started eating pumpkin seeds and dark chocolate before bed because those felt like the most convenient and the most pleasant. And I added spinach to my dinner because I was already cooking. And within 3 nights, my leg cramps were completely gone. And I'm not exaggerating. This wasn't gradual. This wasn't something I had to build up to. It was like I had given my muscles the one thing they'd been desperately asking for, and they just stopped freaking out. And I slept through the entire night for the first time in months. And I remember lying there at 3 a.m. thinking I couldn't feel my calf muscles. And that sounds funny, but it was the most beautiful thing because it meant they weren't seizing up. It meant they were finally relaxed. Now I want to talk about why most people don't get results from magnesium supplements. And this is the deep cut that most people don't understand. And it's the reason why taking a magnesium supplement might not work for you the way you'd expect. Because the magnesium supplement market is flooded with a form called magnesium oxide. And it's everywhere. It's the cheapest. It's in most multivitamins. It's in most of the supplements you see at the drugstore. And the problem is that magnesium oxide has only about 4% bioavailability, which means that when you take magnesium oxide, your body only actually absorbs 4% of what you're ingesting. The rest of it just passes right through your digestive system. And in fact, most of it acts as a laxative, which is why magnesium is sometimes sold specifically for constipation relief. And if you're someone who takes a magnesium supplement and then immediately has to run to the bathroom, you're probably taking magnesium oxide, and your body is rejecting it. There are other forms. Magnesium citrate is better absorbed, but it also tends to have a laxative effect. And then there's magnesium glycinate, which is more expensive, but it's much better absorbed, especially for addressing muscle cramps. But here's the thing I learned that really changed my thinking, and this is important. Food sources of magnesium are superior to supplements because when you eat magnesium in food, it comes wrapped up with all the cofactors your body needs to actually use it. It comes with the vitamins and minerals that help it get absorbed and help it do its job. And when you take an isolated supplement, you're getting just magnesium by itself, without all those helpers, and your body doesn't process it the same way. Think about how you absorb pumpkin seeds, for example. When you eat a pumpkin seed, you're getting magnesium along with zinc, copper, manganese, and phosphorus. And your body recognizes this as a complete package, as nutrition from a real food source, and it treats it differently than it treats a synthetic powder. And your digestive system actually knows what to do with it. There's another critical piece that most women don't understand, and it's about the relationship between magnesium and calcium. Because here's what's been happening to so many of us. We've been told for 30 years that we need to take calcium to prevent osteoporosis. And that's not wrong. We do need calcium. Osteoporosis is a real concern for women at our age, and I'm not dismissing that. But most women have been supplementing calcium without supplementing magnesium. And that creates a dangerous imbalance in your body, because calcium and magnesium have to be in balance for your nerves to fire correctly and your muscles to function correctly. Calcium is the gas pedal, and magnesium is the brake. And if you have too much calcium and not enough magnesium, your muscles stay contracted, your nerves stay activated, and your whole system is basically on high alert all the time. It's like you're running an engine with the foot on the gas and no way to apply the brakes. The ideal ratio is either 1-to-1 magnesium to calcium or up to 2-to-1 calcium to magnesium, which means for every unit of calcium, you should have the same amount or double that amount of magnesium. But most women are walking around with a 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 calcium to magnesium ratio because they've been taking calcium supplements for decades without thinking about magnesium. Maybe you've been taking a calcium citrate supplement, or drinking fortified milk, or eating calcium supplements on top of your normal diet. And that's great for your bones. But without the magnesium to balance it, you're creating this state of chronic muscle tension and nervous system overstimulation. And that's part of why the cramping is happening, part of why the anxiety is happening, part of why so many of us are lying awake at night with our minds racing and our muscles twitching. If you're magnesium deficient, there are so many symptoms beyond leg cramps that you might be experiencing and not even connecting to this one thing. There's anxiety that feels like it comes out of nowhere. There's insomnia where you can't fall asleep or you can't stay asleep. There's constipation that doesn't respond to fiber. There's this weird eye twitching that can drive you absolutely crazy. There are heart palpitations where you feel like your heart is fluttering or racing. And there are headaches and migraines that come back again and again. The reason all these things happen is because magnesium regulates your nervous system. It's the mineral that tells your body when it's okay to relax. And when you're deficient, you're essentially running a sympathetic nervous system that's stuck in high gear. You're in a constant state of alert even when you're trying to sleep, even when you're sitting down with a cup of tea. I tell you this because when I started eating more magnesium, so many of these things improved simultaneously. My eye stopped twitching after 3 weeks. My anxiety lifted enough that I could actually think clearly without that constant background hum of worry. My digestion improved because my gut wasn't in that clenched, anxious state anymore. And I realized they were all connected. They were all pointing to this one deficiency that was making my entire nervous system unstable. And when I corrected it, it was like I had dialed down the volume on my whole body's anxiety response. And I could feel my body actually recovering from years of being stuck in this state of tension. Before you start loading up on all these magnesium foods, I do want to mention some cautions. And this is important. If you have kidney disease or kidney problems, you need to talk to your doctor before dramatically increasing magnesium intake, because your kidneys regulate magnesium, and if they're not working properly, too much magnesium can be dangerous. Also, if you're taking antibiotics or certain osteoporosis medications or blood pressure medications, magnesium can interfere with their absorption. You need to space them out by at least 2 hours. So if you take medication, check with your doctor or pharmacist about the timing. And if you're on a lot of medications, this is especially important. Don't just start eating 500 milligrams of magnesium without thinking about how it might interact with what you're already taking. Get professional guidance. But for most of us, for most healthy women over 55 who don't have kidney problems and aren't on medications that interact with magnesium, adding these 5 foods to our regular diet is not just safe, it's exactly what our bodies have been asking for. I had no idea when I was lying in bed at 2 in the morning with my calf muscle clenched that the answer was going to be pumpkin seeds and dark chocolate and spinach. I thought I was entering some period of my life where I was just going to have to accept these nighttime interruptions as the cost of getting older, and I was wrong. And that's what I want you to know. Whatever is happening in your body right now at this age, it's worth investigating. It's worth looking for the simple nutritional cause before you assume it's just aging. Because sometimes the answer is just one specific nutrient that your body desperately needs. And in my case, it was magnesium. And in 3 nights, my life changed. And now I sleep through the night and I wake up refreshed. And I eat foods I actually enjoy. And I feel like my body finally has what it needs to just relax and recover while I sleep. And that's everything. Next week, I'm going to talk to you about hair loss after 60 and the one nutrient that's probably the real culprit. And it's something you've probably heard of, but you probably don't understand why it matters so much for women our age. And it's called zinc. So stay tuned, because if you're noticing that your hair is getting thinner or you're losing more hair in the shower than you used to, I'm going to give you the exact science of why that happens and the foods that can help you address it.